it's just anti-human. I mean, once you start down that path, it's not about creating solutions. It's not about education or better living standards. It's about death. And that's what they ultimately are, a cult. I mean, David Icke is right. And talking about Mr. Klaus there, it reminded me of the character in Dr. Strangelove, the doctor when he has the German accent and he keeps trying to do the Nazi salute and he can't help himself. And I mean, it comes through, right? They really, these elites, they go back to that same kind of principle.
Well,
and that's funny, the Antifas and the left are all talking about Orange Man bad. He's the new Hitler. And I'm like, you follow these elites who actually did have associations with the Third Reich and or believe in eugenics.
Soros was a literal Nazi. We don't just say that.
InfoWars has delivered because you have delivered. InfoWars is organic, pro-human resistance to the globalist takeover and to Satan's plan to kill humanity. This is real. You can see Bill Gates announcing he owns your body. You can see the globalists announcing they own your family. The good news is, for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction, and you are that reaction. So understand, you are not supporters of the info war. You're not calling in to thank me. You are the info war. You are the resistance. You are the future. So now, with 25 days out from the election, spread the word about the broadcast. Buy the products and support us to stay on air in the face of the enemy. You kept us in attack formation. And pray for us. You do that trifecta. Nothing can stop you. You control your destiny. You are victory. Take action now.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the third hour of the War Room. My name's Harrison Smith, sitting in for Owen Schroyer, who is, of course, at the head of the Stop the Steal caravan, which you can follow and hopefully join if you're in the path. The path is shortening by the hour. I think there was something like 30 cars now in this caravan, which is just incredible. I mean, that's got to be over a mile of info warriors driving down the highway, charging towards the Capitol to encourage the fair counting of votes and to insist that our republic not be stolen out from underneath us. Stop the Steal Caravan on Parler and stopthestealcaravan.com. But I would love to happy to welcome my newest guest, Tony Arterburn of the Arterburn Radio Hour. It's Veterans Day, and obviously we have great respect for our veterans. As much as we harp against the war, we harp against the military adventurism and the imperialism that our elites insist on pushing on the American people. It's never about insulting or talking down to or disrespecting the men on the ground, the boots on the ground. They, of course, are taking on an incredible risk and incredible weight on their own shoulders, theoretically, to preserve our freedoms and to protect us here in America. But what we know is that so often that good impulse is turned and perverted into something wicked and bad by the people above. And so I really kind of want to just hand the floor over to you, Tony, and I want you to talk about your experience as a veteran, why you joined, what your military service entailed, and how you feel now looking back on all of it. Tony Arterburn.
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here. Love it when you host. I love it when Owen hosts, and I always like to come back to the War Room when I can. It's a lot of energy here. I love it's the tail end of the broadcast day for InfoWars, and you guys just smoke it every time. It's fun.
It's a little bit different than the relaxed, chill atmosphere of David Knight's show, which is good. We need a little diversity in shows here.
I was going to tell you last time that I was on David Knight, and you said, you deliver a very calm show, Tony. I was like, man, I'm as nervous as a cat in a rocking chair factory when I do that show. But I hold it together, and I learned some of that poise from being a paratrooper and a military policeman. I joined the Army in 1999, and it's kind of one of the last good years of military service. And I joined the 108th MP Company at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It was airborne air assault. We were the first Army company on the ground in Afghanistan, in Kandahar, Afghanistan, after 9/11. I did a year in Iraq and also did a tour in Kosovo. So that's 3 foreign wars. And what I've learned from my experience as a paratrooper and also being married to my combat medic, Melissa, is that Smedley Butler was right when he said that war was a racket. War is a racket. And sometimes wars are just and necessary, but the wars that our elites thrust us into, you mentioned Afghanistan, talking to Tom Pappert in the last segment, and that's an absolute travesty. Being part of the first units on the ground there back in 2000, I landed in the end of 2001, Harrison. I was 21 years old, and to look now at my son who wants to join the military, and I'm trying to talk him out of it. I've had this discussion on the War Room before, but now it looks really ominous that our country is going to be ruled by a decrepit, handsy, sniffing degenerate. And I don't know that that's a good thing for our military, because we're about to be sent into some very unnecessary wars if Biden is allowed to get away with the theft. Trump, people are hard on Trump, but the one thing he did is he kept our foreign policy in stasis. He hasn't invaded any new countries. Yeah, he continued the thing in Yemen. I was disappointed in that. He's talked about getting out of Afghanistan. He's also ordered us to get out of Syria about 15 times.
Right.
And the generals who defy him should have been fired and disgraced a long time ago, but that didn't happen. So you see Kamala Harris, Harrison, talking about getting back into Syria. Yep. I mean, it's to the elites. I just have to think that the foreign policy of the United States is some sort of weird human sacrifice to them.
Yeah, I mean, we're but tools for the globalists to wage wars on their own for their own benefit. They don't even pretend that it's for America's benefit anymore. They just act like it's our duty to serve them. It's pretty despicable. So I talked about it a little bit earlier in the show, and I know I have a family member who really felt betrayed. He felt like not just betrayed, but like he had been an actor in his own betrayal almost. This strange, really tragic kind of mindset of, I thought I was being a patriot, I thought I was doing the right thing, and now I've learned that I was a tool for the deep state and I didn't even know it. Was there some sort of awakening like that for you, and how do you deal with that? That's heavy stuff, man.
It can destroy your psyche if you let it. What I would tell veterans who are having a hard time coping with that, because you want to feel like I was part of protecting freedom and spreading freedom or democracy, which I don't like that word, but that was what we were told. And of course, it's all a deep state ploy and multinational corporations, the military industrial complex, and all the rest. What I say is enjoy the fact that you got to serve with the warrior class, because that's a privilege in and of itself. You got to have, the brotherhood of combat vets and people looking out for each other, and you got to have that experience. One thing that combat will teach you, Harrison, is you learn how to identify an enemy. You learn when you're under attack. And right now, I mean, it's funny, I got home in 2004. It feels like not that long ago, but I don't feel like I ever transitioned into like a normal civilian. When all this stuff happens, the New World Order and COVID roll out and the psychological operation, I'm like, yeah, it seems like a normal thing. I mean, it's war, so I just always feel like I'm in one. But I would tell those veterans that it is a tough transition to make. But you need to understand that we just fought the two longest wars in American history, and they're not over. That's Iraq and Afghanistan. And under those time frames, we also lost most of all of our freedoms, if not everything.
Right.
So those two things go together. And we need to understand that as veterans, that the deep state and the Luciferian, bankster, weirdo, military-industrial complex, political class has used us. And that's the issue. That's what we need to get to the root of and root out.
Yeah, it's not and it's not hypothetical for a true warrior. It's not when you're on the battlefield. It almost it must be nice to actually have an enemy there. He's trying to kill you and you're trying to kill him. It's straightforward. It's understandable. Now we're in this warfare where nothing is as it seems, and the way to win a war is to seem pathetic. I mean, it's this weird, twisted, inverted reality that we find ourselves in, or that we've been forced into. And, we always point it out, but whether it's with the refugee crisis or, the immigration crisis or, sending people out to war, it's always our goodness that gets turned against us, right? If we were hard-hearted and callous and didn't care if anybody else was free and, hey, they got a tyrant, let them suffer under that tyrant. If we were like that, they couldn't trick us into doing this type of stuff. But it's because vast majority of Americans are good people who are willing to put their own lives their own wellness on the line to sacrifice for somebody else, and yet it's that goodness that's turned against us. What do you think about that, Tony?
You're absolutely right. There's a great article up on revolver.news today. It's about fourth story down. It's an article by a veteran, Samuel Finlay, I believe. It says, "We have been betrayed." It says, "We have a country run by people who don't believe in countries." I thought that's the opening line. I thought that is so apt. I talked about that today on my show. And, you know, we look at the landscape and we're so, you know, the heartland and those us patriots and those who keep the lights on and fight the wars. It's like we're so divorced from the values of the people that run this country, the people that have been undermining the Trump administration and all the policies of America First since the election in 2016 and have continued that up until today. We're so different from them. It's like a different species.
Yeah, and it's you know, it'd be fine if they weren't, you know, turning us towards their ends. You know, it's like, hey, you want to be different over there. But now you're enlisting us or forcing us to be party to that. Here's the article. It's from American Greatness. It's on Revolver. It's about the fourth or fifth down. It's called 2020 is the Veterans Election. We've been betrayed, and it's time to stop tolerating it. And I think that's the general sentiment that I've been hearing across America, especially from veterans. They're sick and tired of being used and abused, and we're standing up once and for all. It's very good to see. More Tony Arterburn on the other side, folks. Stay with us. Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Harrison Smith. I am joined by Tony Arterburn. You can follow him at arterburn.news, wisewolf.gold, or on Twitter at Tony Arterburn. Of course, he has the Arterburn radio transmission every weekday, and it's you know, amazing stuff. He's a true info warrior through and through. You know, from the old school, I think, from the way back, not one of these new hangers on that joined once Trump came on. I'm kidding. We appreciate all info warriors equally. If you're awake, you're awake, and that's all there is to it. But Tony, you touched on a little bit in that last segment with just the word. You dropped one word in there when you're talking about the bankers and the globalist cabal, and that one word was Luciferian, right? That one word is satanic. And as I'm looking now at some of the updates about COVID-19 and the way the reaction is being rolled out, Ticketmaster to verify vaccine status require barcode app for concert attendees. And I like the way this person phrases it. You will soon not be able to participate in commerce without a digital barcode that shows you took the vaccine and had a COVID test. And of course, New York lawyers recommend mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations. Now, if you're a religious person, if you've read Revelations, you know that in a very real way, this is the literal mark of the beast. This is the method for total control that was laid out in the Bible as the method for Satan to take total control here on earth. You're a big fan of history. I mean, this is unprecedented as far as I'm concerned, and it seems like it's relying almost completely on the ignorance of the American people to convince them to go along with this. But you know, what do we do about this, Tony? That and let me just, you know, sorry to go on, but you know, you have Anthony Fauci coming out and saying, you know, the American people would never stand for mandatory vaccines. And it's like, well, okay, they're still going to try it in places like New York City where they know people are more apt to follow along. But the other thing is that you don't have to make a mandatory vaccine if you make it mandatory to require a vaccine for companies like Ticketmaster or restaurants, in the same way that we've seen the mask rollout. There's no mask mandate, but restaurants will enforce a mask mandate, sort of a roundabout way of enforcing these methods of control. What do we do about this, Tony?
You're right. It'll be the corporations. It most likely won't come from a government edict. It'll be the corporations, and that's how it'll get fused into your life. And of course, now the corporations are very happy. The multinationals that the media has called the coup d'etat for Joe Biden, and the markets are soaring, and everybody's happy because Joe Biden got 5-1 from Wall Street. For all you liberals out there that think you're for the working man, Wall Street loves crony capitalism and the lockdowns. No, it'll come from the corporations. And one of the things, as this has gone on and on my program, I become a little less political, a little bit more spiritual. And I say, look, folks, here's the good news. I believe that God has us here for a reason. Those of us who are aware, those of us who are taking part in resisting this total takeover of humanity. That's why I'm just it's such an honor to be associated with InfoWars when I can and come in and host. And I watch the broadcast every day, and I'm informed. But it's a privilege to be in this time, and it looks really bleak. But we're called to be here. We're called to resist this. That's the good news: is that God is real and the devil is real. These are these eternal battles that are happening right now. There is an in-game gathering, and we will be called to represent the side of what I believe is the good and lifeward principles, God. And I'm just happy to be here. I don't know if there's not many political answers other than resist. Last year when I was on the War Room, Owen asked me the same question before all of this kicked off. How do you deal with the massive amount of propaganda and government overreach? And I said, mass civil disobedience. They can't arrest all of us. And if you resist on, I just say small rebellions, throw a little bit of tea into the harbor every day when you wake up. Do something to just thumb your nose at the establishment, because the establishment hates you. I mean, they want you dead. I mean, they want you to be, what does Davos say? You'll own nothing and you'll love it. Yeah. You'll love your servitude. Get into your little pod and take these pills. And I mean, it's just, that's not the future that our forefathers and our ancestors fought for, and that our mothers raised us to inherit. That's not the future for us. We're not going to do that.
Well, there is no future in that way, right? I mean, that's an eternal, quagmire of hell, basically. It's like, I remember, I think it was maybe on Joe Rogan's podcast one time that Alex Jones was like, hell is a bunch of vampires all trying to suck each other's blood. Like, there's no blood to suck. It's just this endless, circle of death that they're trying to indoctrinate us into. And you pointed out that it wasn't Davos, it was the World Economic Forum came out with that video, I believe, in 2017. Right. And that's the opening, is you'll own nothing and you'll like it. And of course, the founder of the World Economic Forum yesterday said, hey, one of the good things about COVID is that because of the lockdown, young people are having trouble meeting each other, meaning there's going to be less children, and that'll deal with overpopulation. So that's a good thing about COVID, is the population reduction. So these are one of the elites. These are one of the people making the decisions, openly saying COVID is good because it's killing off the population, because it's preventing young people from getting together and creating families. I mean, if you can't recognize this as evil, I don't know what to tell you, right?
Well, that's right. And I mentioned Davos, the great reset, the elites getting together and creating this whole new world for us based on Agenda 2030 and Agenda 21, which is sustainability, which means the erasing of people, getting rid of you and putting you into the mega cities and having you chipped and monitored and vaccinated and all the rest. Because, look, the people that are at the upper echelons, David Icke calls them the cult. Well, they really are. I mean, they've created this system where we're enslaved by the banking class and the multinational corporations who own almost all the media landscape now. They own big tech. They own all these things. And we get to a point here where we're looking at what they have done, and what they have brought to this planet is absolute destruction, pollution, stagnation. I mean, why would you want to buy into their future? I mean, they're controlling so much of the narrative. I mean, Alex Jones has talked about this for years. There's a reason why we can't get off the planet and have colonies in space. I mean, these people are literally holding us on the planet, in a prison planet, keeping us here, locking us down. They don't want us to advance as a species.
Yeah, it really is amazing. And, I know you're a big fan of literature and history, and you've read all the classics. And of course, what comes to my mind is Brave New World, and what Aldous Huxley called the ultimate revolution, the revolution beyond which further revolution would be impossible, because they'd have the entire thing locked down. Here you have Biden coronavirus advisor, Dr. Zeke Emanuel, once argued it's not worth living past 75. So we're going to have somebody literally in charge of an aspect of our healthcare that has written before that it's his firmly held belief that everyone should die at 75. Now that's Brave New World. That's literally what happens in the book, right? I mean, you get to 75 and you're done, you're over. It's not about your life. It's about what's best for society, and what's best for society is for old folks to go in the ground. And these are the people that are going to be running your health care. It's terrifying. And, you know, you don't have to be a right-winger to understand this, I would hope. More Tony Arterburn on the other side, folks. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to the War Room. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined by my guest, Tony Arterburn. Of course, it's all hands on deck here at InfoWars. And this is one of the great things about the InfoWar is that, of course, we have just an incredible talent here at the office, not even to mention the crew, which is the hardest working crew in show business. I'll guarantee you that. But we got Alex Jones, obviously, as the keystone here. But we have David Knight in the morning, a little bit more professorial, a little bit more relaxed. We have Owen Schroyer in the afternoon, bombastic, firebrand, totally awesome. Of course, Deanna Lorraine, sort of the newest addition here at the headquarters. But when something happens, like the Stop the Steal Caravan, like the Million MAGA March in Washington, D.C., and they all get called away, we aren't alone. We aren't out here, in a raft adrift by ourselves. We tap the reserves. We got Tony Arterburn. We got Tom Papper. We have so many great patriots in the wings that have been helping us always and are eager and happy to come, fill in whenever they need to. And we're so appreciative of that. And, of course, it can't be done without you going to InfoWarsStore.com and making the purchases and getting your own supplements. Of course, fantastic products, amazing deals. And the deals are just getting better and better. So please do go support us. The more hands on deck that we have, the better. But we're so happy to have such a plethora of just amazing patriots out there that are ready and willing to lend a hand. And of course, we're not jealous here. We want you to go to National File. We want you to go to arterburn.news and wisewolf.gold and follow Tony and listen to his radio program, the Arterburn news broadcast. The Arterburn radio transmission. I should get the name right while I'm complimenting it, shouldn't I, Tony? But we want more of these people. We need 10,000 Tony Arterburns. We need 10,000 Tom Papperts. We need 1 million Alex Joneses, and then we wouldn't be in this situation. So do your part. Help us how you can. Go to InfoWarsStore.com and take advantage of some of our great products. Now, Tony, I have the feeling maybe you want to say something about this because we sort of left it off at the end of that last segment, this idea that Joe Biden has a COVID advisor that essentially thinks that life beyond 75 isn't worth living. Now, don't mention to him that Joe Biden is 77. That might throw a wrench in the works here. but we can laugh, but it's kind of a terrifying psychopathic mindset to go, hey, what are you, 76? You should probably be dead now. This is evil, right? Is there any other way to describe this?
No, it's pure evil. They look at human beings as the virus. That's what this whole thing's about. It's not a war on COVID. It's a war on all of us. We're the virus. They're trying to control us. That's what the lockdowns are all about. So that makes sense. If you believe that people shouldn't live past 75, then you're working for Joe Biden, who I guess will be put back in his cryo chamber if he's pushed through the coup d'etat to be our new emperor, our overlord. He can't be president. I've said this before on the show. When you have the intel communities, the multinationals, the mega banks, everybody in concert that wants to destroy the United States working together to bring down the Trump administration for 4 years on the side of the Democratic Party, it's not a legitimate thing. So
right.
You really can't be president if you have all those things working with you at the same time. So I don't know what Joe Biden will be. I assume he won't be there very long, but he's picking a lot of interesting people, isn't he? People that believe in the lockdown, believe that we've got to have less people, that we need to put age limits on people. That is right. It's New World Order dystopia. Yeah, is what that is, Harrison.
Yeah, it's totally sick. And of course, he has adopted for his own campaign the phrase "Build Back Better," which is the Great Reset put forward by Davos, put forward by the World Economic Forum. Here's World Economic Forum head, I guess, or founder Klaus Schwab, and just to quote him directly from his own Twitter, he posts a chart of countries by population size, and he says, due to mandatory social restrictions, single people are finding it more difficult than ever to meet each other. As global population is currently not sustainable and birth rates need to fall, this can be viewed as a very positive outcome of the COVID-19 pandemic. So positive outcome, people can't meet each other and the population is being reduced. Now, obviously, the only answer in my mind to this is if you're worried about overpopulation, you can't really do too much about other people's lives. There is one life that you are perfectly capable of removing from this earth, and that's your own. I mean, if you're really worried about, overpopulation, do the world a favor and kill yourself. That's my solemnly given advice for Klaus Schwab. Kill yourself. Tony?
You first, right? You elitist pig.
Right.
You first. I think we should have International Hold Your Breath Day for people that believe in the Great Reset. I think we should, if you believe in that and you believe in depopulation, let's have International Hold Your Breath Day. See how long you can do it. You first, folks. And that's the thing, is that there's not too many people. I mean, lots of experts have looked at this. You could fit, I think, the entire population of the globe comfortably into Texas. I mean, it wouldn't be really economical, but you could put people there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so we're not, it's about how we have our cities set up. I mean, Jim Marrs wrote about this in his book, Population Control, this last book he wrote before he passed away. It was a great book, and it broke down a lot of these myths about, why there's so many people. We have to do something about it. Well, really what we have to do is allow human beings to innovate.
Mm-hmm.
The elites stop our innovation, Harrison. They've created this world where you can only advance to a certain level to make change if you're allowed to. That's why you have these puppets that emerge. There's so many smart people in the entrepreneurial field that aren't allowed to go to the next level because they get replaced by some demonic little elf like Bill Gates.
Yeah, no, it's such a good point. And I've been pointing it out forever that it's in these authoritarian systems. It actually doesn't matter how good you are. Even for artists, doesn't matter how good your art is. The only thing that matters is, do you serve the system? And the system will either destroy you for opposing it or reward you for adhering to it. And it doesn't matter if you can be the most brilliant scientist in the world. If you ideologically are not willing to submit yourself to the total control of this authoritarian system, you're not getting anything. You're not getting the grants. You're not getting the money. You're not getting the focus or the media attention that you need to succeed, because you aren't serving the system. However, you can be an utter moron, but as long as you publish 1619 or are named Ibram X whatever, you're going to be supported and told that you're the paramount authority and great thinker of our time. Even though you're a complete moron who's totally wrong about everything, you serve the system, so you'll be rewarded. And this is how authoritarianism works, how it always has, from communism to Nazism. Serve the system. That's the only metric by which you're judged.
That's exactly right. And don't forget, history teaches us that before great evil is done, you must first have a society identify itself as a victim. Before great evil, unspeakable evil is done, you have to create a class of victims, make people believe that they are victimized.
Right. But because then whatever they do is righteous and good, doesn't matter. Hey, what's the problem with filling out a little ballot or two? Hey, is it so bad to, write the wrong name on a ballot and send it in? After all, I'm stopping Hitler. So, what wouldn't you do to stop Hitler, right? But, I mean, this is the justification they're using. And you look at this chart that this demon scumbag, Klaus Schwab, tweets out. You've got countries by population size, China and India, huge, taking up the whole map pretty much right there in the middle. Should we nuke China and India? I mean, should we kill all these people? I mean, if this is the problem, if you're trying to save the world here, should we kill all these people? Obviously not. But I mean, this is where the ideology inevitably ends up, isn't it?
Well, sure. It's just anti-human. I mean, once you start down that path, it's not about creating solutions. It's not about education or better living standards. It's about death. And that's what they ultimately are, a cult. I mean, David Icke is right. And talking about Mr. Klaus there, it reminded me of the character in Dr. Strangelove, the doctor when he has the German accent and he keeps trying to do the Nazi salute and he can't help himself. And I mean, it comes through, right? They really, these elites, they go back to that same kind of principle.
Well,
and it's funny, the Antifas and the left are all talking about Orange Man bad. He's the new Hitler. And I'm like, you follow these elites who actually did have associations with the Third Reich or believe in eugenics.
Soros was a literal Nazi. We don't just say that.
The day of doom is here. Now that's a double-edged sword. It can be a day of doom for humanity, a day of doom for Christians, conservatives, nationalists, or patriots, or it can be a day of doom for the Satanists, the pedophiles, the globalists, the radical Islamists. It really comes down to what you're going to stand for. They have launched their full attack. They are calling for the very end of the existence of our country itself because we have not defended our ethos, our identity, and who we are. But if we rise to the challenge, if we awaken, if we have the courage to simply challenge the censors and the thugs and the bullies, we'll find on the other side that all the turbulence basically ends. And there's nothing but blue skies and clarity and smooth sailing after it. The truth is, bowing to tyrants, bowing to bullies, puts you in a position of living on your knees as a slave. But standing up to the bullies and saying no to their program empowers you. And that's where we are as a civilization. Now, obviously, Joe Biden has stolen the election so far, and President Trump is challenging him. But if any of us thought President Trump was invincible, we were fools. He was up against the Chinese communists, the EU, Hollywood, the Satanists, big academia, all the leftists, all the scam artists, radical Islam, big tech, and so much more. The truth is, Trump was an anomaly, a sucker punch directly to the throat of the New World Order. So was Bolsonaro, and so were so many others. The truth is, humanity was in a trance before and wasn't even resisting. But now, in the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a global awakening that is spiritual, that is individual, that isn't black, that isn't brown, that isn't white, that isn't old, that isn't young, that isn't male, that isn't female, but is human. And so they're going to try to discredit our revolution and discredit our awakening. They're going to try to bring in socialism and global mask mandates and forced inoculations and shutdowns of economies, all to make us get scared and submit to their program of dehumanization. But I believe, and history has shown, that it's going to backfire on what they've done. It's going to blow up in their face. But regardless of what happens, there are all these false political paradigms, all these false political teachings that we've laid out here. InfoWars is hated by the establishment because we cover the real paradigm of the usurpers, of the conquerors, of the corrupt, versus those that support the Renaissance and the ethos of Christ. We believe in the brotherhood of man and woman. We believe in unity under our red blood and our spirit. We believe in the human spirit and ideas unifying us and what we stand for unifying us, not the color of our skin. But everything the leftists do is the opposite of that, to turn us against each other, because they know we have unity, they know we have strength, so they seek disunity in the name of unity, and they are frauds. And all their works are easy to defeat if you just pull back and are conscious and realize their manipulation. In closing, I'll say this. We're running the biggest sale yet of the year, because without your funding, we won't be here on air. It's the American Crisis. Emergency Lockdown 2 is coming. Support InfoWars in the fight against total economic collapse and Biden's martial law disguised as Lockdown 2. We've got to sell our products now. We've got to get all the amazing turmeric products, bodies, the X2 iodine, the DNA Force Plus, the t-shirts, the books, the water filtration, the non-GMO seeds, all of it out of our warehouses now. Because the word is, as I warned 2 months ago, when Biden steals the election, is a total takeover and permanent collapse in martial law. So get prepared, fund the info into the future so we can continue to fight at InfoWarsStore.com. But whatever you do, spread the word about the live transmission. God bless you all.